Hello, welcome to McDowell Strategy and Tactics, and thank you to our subscribers. In this series, we play through each of the battles in the American Grand Campaign in Close Combat 4, the Battle of the Bulge. We use historical World War II US Army doctrine to plan and conduct each battle. We start on the strategic map. It is 1600 hours on December 18, 1944, and the weather remains foggy. Field artillery and combat aviation have been assigned, and there are no supply drops. The last battle was at Baugneis between the US 14th Cavalry Group and the German Kampfgruppe Stefan from 2nd Panzer Division. The result was a total American victory, and the German battle group was forced to disband. The next battle is at Clerf between the US 7th Armoured Division's Combat Command Baker and the German Kampfgruppe Waldenburg of 116th Panzer Division. Clerf must be held as long as possible to delay the German advance. Defend the Chateau to the last man, like the defenders of the Alamo, so that reserves can be brought forward. The churches in the area provide excellent observation posts to stall the Germans. The road leading to Noville is of secondary importance, but should be held so that no German troops may pass. If this town can be held, the road to Dasburg is also the road that leads to the Reich. On the US side is an American armoured battle group from 7th Armoured Division's Combat Command Baker, under command of Brigadier General Clark. It moves fast, and reserves are full. The Combined Arms Company consists of 3 platoons. First platoon is a tank platoon, mostly equipped with M4 Sherman medium tanks with 75mm main guns. Second platoon is an infantry platoon. And third platoon is a support platoon, with 3 tanks and 2 half-tracks. Let's rename the new squads off camera. Now let's review each of the squads. 3-1 is 3rd Platoon Headquarters with a Command Sherman. 2-1 is 2nd Platoon Headquarters. 2-2 is a Rifle Squad. 1-3 is an M4 Sherman medium tank with a 75mm gun. 1-4 is also an M4 Sherman medium tank. 1-2 is also an M4 Sherman medium tank. 1-5 is an M7 Priest 105mm self-propelled artillery gun. 3-5 is an M21 81mm mortar motor carriage. 3-4 is an M5 heavy machine gun half-track. 2-5 is a Browning 30 caliber medium machine gun. 1-1 is 1st Platoon Headquarters with a Command Sherman. 2-3 is a Rifle Squad. 2-4 is an M9 Bazooka team. 3-2 is an M3 Stuart light tank with a 37mm gun. 3-3 is also an M3 Stuart light tank. Next, let's look at the map and conduct a commander's estimate of the situation. Our mission is to attack Clerf to threaten the northern flank of the German salient. Clerf, now known as Clairvaux, is a small town in northern Luxembourg on the River Clerve. On a hill around which the river curves is the Chateau de Clairvaux, a 12th century castle. North of the chateau, across the river, is a church with 2 tall steeples that overlook the area. Adjacent to the church is a railroad line from Massen in the north, which crosses the river and runs through a tunnel under the hill on its way south to Draufeld. The Route de Monache also runs from the north, past the road to Noville to the west, around the base of the chateau west of the river, and then off to the east towards Dasburg, and from there to the Reich. East of the town, the route is bisected by a road, running north to the village of Roiler and beyond that to the Schnee Eifel, with a church and single steeple at the crossroads. Between Clerf to the west and Roiler to the east is a woodland park. This is what Clairvaux looks like today. Appropriately enough, the chateau now hosts a museum of the Battle of the Bulge. Observation is good along the roads and from the multi-storey buildings, being the church steeples and the chateau. However, sightlines are obstructed by the woodland park and by buildings. The park and the buildings also provide concealment. The thick stone walls of the chateau provide excellent cover to any defenders. The chateau and town and village buildings are obstacles to vehicle movement, channeling vehicles onto the roads. The surrounding woods and the river are passable, but likely to slow down vehicle movement. Avenues of approach into Clerf include along the road from the north, from the east along the Route de Manache, or from the south. The chateau is decisive terrain, which is what one would expect of a castle. It is an excellent defensive position due to its central location, sturdy construction, and observation over the surrounding roads. The crossroad on the Route de Manache is key terrain, as it is a choke point that controls access to Clerf and the chateau. We know from the previous battle that Kampfgruppe Waldenburg is a Panzer company with a Panzer V heavy tank, 3 Panzer IV medium tanks, some armoured vehicles, and supporting infantry. In the last battle, the Kampfgruppe seized the Chateau de Clairvaux, but the American force attacked from the north and cut them off in the town, seizing the crossroads and the road east to Dasburg. As such, the Germans could adopt a defensive posture. The infantry could occupy defensive positions in and around the chateau to retain their foothold in Clerf. The Panzers could form defensive support fire lines along the road in front of the north face of the chateau. From these positions, they could cover the northern and eastern avenues of approach to Clerf. Support vehicles such as the mortar half-track could remain behind the chateau to the south. The best killing zone could therefore be the road. Alternatively, the Germans could attempt a breakout to open the road to Dasburg for reinforcements and supply from the Reich. The infantry could occupy defensive positions in and around the chateau to retain their foothold in Clerf. The Panzers could concentrate south of the chateau and advance east along the Route de Manache to seize the crossroads. With the crossroads secure, the Panzers could either consolidate their position or push north to capture Roila. The best killing zone could be the crossroads on the Route de Manache. The Germans' strongest asset is the Panther heavy tank, followed by the 3 Panzer IV medium tanks. The Americans must neutralize or destroy these tanks if they are to have any hope of victory. The first course of action is to neutralize the tanks by dislocating them. In other words, making them irrelevant. The American tanks of 1st Platoon would hold a defensive position around the crossroads against any breakout attack by Panzers. If this does not eventuate, the infantry of 2nd Platoon would then move through the woods to the southern face of the chateau. Once in position, 1st Platoon would move west and take up a support by fire position along the Route de Manache, facing north. Under cover of the tanks, and direct fire from the Priest 105mm self-propelled gun, the infantry would assault the chateau. Any German panzers moving around the castle in response would be channeled into 2 narrow roads, one at a time, easily targeted by massed American tank fire. 3rd Platoon would remain in Roila, with the Stuart tanks in reserve ready to move forward to retain the crossroads or exploit opportunities. This plan would attack the Germans at a weak point, but the Americans would still be attacking a castle. Also, it assumes the Germans are oriented north. If the German tanks are to the south or counterattacking east, the Americans could be caught while moving in the open. The second course of action is to destroy the tanks. The machine gun and bazooka from 2nd Platoon would occupy the church to provide overwatch of the chateau. The remainder of the infantry from 2nd Platoon would infiltrate the town from the north. The American tanks of 1st Platoon would hold a defensive position around the crossroads against any attack by Panzers. If this does not eventuate, they would carefully move forward to engage the Panzers in the flank. Once the Panzers were destroyed, the remaining German position would be untenable. The American tanks would form a support by fire position, covering 2nd Platoon as they advanced into the town and engaged the infantry. 3rd Platoon would remain in Roila, with the Stuart tanks in reserve ready to move forward to retain the crossroads or exploit opportunities. This plan would be more decisive. Destroying the German panzers would significantly weaken their position in Clerf. But it carries significant risk. The American tanks are no match for the German panzers in a head-to-head tank duel. If the American tanks were all knocked out, this attack would surely fail. I have made my decision and have placed the platoons and squads in position. The tanks of 1st Platoon around the crossroads, in battle pairs, and with firepower concentrated to the west. Second Platoon ready to infiltrate Clerf from the north. With the medium machine gun and bazooka in the church steeple. And 3rd Platoon's firepower in reserve, with the light tanks ready to move on the crossroads. The Alamo. We all know what happened to the defenders of the Alamo. And so we begin. Okay, the worst of both worlds. 2 Panzer IV south of the Chateau, and Panzers and half-tracks facing north. The medium machine gun spotting, the American mortar opens a fire mission on the half-track. For some reason, German infantry are in the open, not in the cover of the Chateau. And the Panzers have oriented northwest towards 2nd Platoon. Time for 1st Platoon to take advantage of the German open right flank.
In position.
2nd Platoon probes forward across the road to Noville.
Bailing out!
Jobs in the command Sherman is hit and bails out. Ramasa gets into a tank duel with a Panzer IV. And wins. Edmondson's bazooka team move into the steeple. Jobs and Ramasa have distracted the Panzers away from 2nd Platoon. Another tank duel.
Move completed.
Ramasa loses this one. Edmondson's bazooka team knocks out a Panzer IV. And the flame half-track is immobilised.
Schmeißt euch hin!
Area secured.
The medium machine gun team are opening up on German troops in the open, around the frozen riverbank. 2nd Platoon takes the road to Noville.
Barrage available.
The obvious target for the barrage is the massive infantry in the open.
Sergeant!
The mortar superimposes on the artillery.
Team redeployed.
2nd Platoon goes to ground in the buildings on the high ground west of the Chateau. Edmondson's bazooka team knocks out the Befehlspanzer command tank. 2 panzers to go. One of the panzers is on the move. The artillery barrage has had absolutely no effect against infantry in the open. Not one casualty.
Get moving, soldier!
The Germans are reorienting northwest, towards 2nd Platoon.
Aussteigen! Pick up your weapon!
Time for 1st Platoon to attack the German flank again.
Kommt zurück!
Edmondson immobilizes the Panzer. The second shot has no effect. Out of ammunition, Edmondson withdraws.
Ich halte nicht mehr aus! Nicht schießen!
Team redeployed! In position.
Wir ergeben uns!
Team redeployed.
Kommt zurück!
Kasdanzik in 1-3 is hit. His tank is destroyed and his crew bail out. German infantry are moving through the woods. The medium machine gun team alert 3rd Platoon. Pittman in 1-4 is now the last hope of defeating the Panzers and taking Clerf from the Germans.
Sergeant! Wir ergeben uns!
The German infantry throw smoke.
Wir ergeben uns!
The final Panzer moves up and pops smoke.
Aussteigen!
But is destroyed. 1 to go. The immobilized Panzer IV. 3-1, 3rd Platoon Command Sherman moves up.
Feigling!
Committing the reserve, the Stuart tanks also move forward.
No clear path.
and 3rd Platoon reorganises to meet the expected German attack through the woods.
Wir ergeben uns!
Move completed. In position.
The German infantry in the open are just a target for the Sherman's machine gun.
Move completed. Team redeployed. In position.
The reserve will swing round south of the Alamo.
Target eliminated. Completed.
German heavy infantry squad destroyed.
Move completed.
3-1, 3rd Platoon Command Sherman is immobilised by a Kommandowagen Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251. Tracks blown off.
Aussteigen!
3-1 gets their revenge and the Kommandowagen is destroyed.
Köpfe runter!
German armour is immobilised, but not defeated. The Americans retain mobility and the Stuart tanks push forward. The Germans pop out of the woods to the north, into a machine gun ambush.
Schmeißt euch hin!
Target neutralized.
Building out! Unter Beschuss!
Target neutralized.
The attack in the north is crushed,
Sir, he has offered a ceasefire.
but the Panzer IV has knocked out 3-3, the Stuart tank. The immobilised German tank remains deadly. Total American victory. The battle ended because the Germans' force morale got too low and they were forced to retreat off the map. The Americans gained control of the map and the German battle group was forced to disband. The Americans won the battle because they control a greater number of crucial victory locations than the Germans. The Americans lost 4 killed, 5 wounded, 4 tanks destroyed, and 1 damaged. The Germans lost 17 killed, 23 wounded, 6 prisoners, 4 tanks destroyed and 1 captured, 1 armoured vehicle destroyed and 2 captured. Let's examine the American squads. 1st Platoon bore the brunt of the fighting. Tilly and Ngo in 1-1 were both killed. Ramassa and Holmes in 1-2 seriously injured with Ewing killed. Holmes and Shannon shared credit for a tank kill and a half-track kill. Kazdanzik in 1-3 seriously injured and Trotter killed. 1-4 was unscathed and Hackett and Gant shared credit for a tank kill and a half-track kill. Second Platoon achieved its terrain objectives without loss. Edmondson and Rantapar both claim a tank kill and are both awarded the Combat Infantryman's Badge. Goff in 3-1 claims a half-track kill, the Kommandowagen Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251. Burgandy and Taylor in 3-3 both go to hospital. So far, the campaign remains a major American victory. The Grand Campaign has 14 days remaining. Your defence of the Ardennes is progressing better than your historical counterparts. This victory at Clerf will put enormous pressure on the German Bulge. Over the course of the campaign, cumulative American losses are 180 killed in action, 172 wounded in action, 13 tanks, 2 vehicles, and 11 guns. Cumulative German losses are 435 killed, 368 wounded, 54 tanks, 51 armoured vehicles, and 1 anti-tank gun. So, what did we learn? First, while the Germans lost 8 vehicles in total, and the battle, and Clerf, the American tanks paid the price for this victory, with 4 destroyed and 1 damaged. The Americans did not have much choice but to use the tanks, and did the best with what they had. However, doctrinally, against equal or superior hostile armoured forces, friendly armoured units should avoid frontal assault and manoeuvre. Instead, enemy tanks should be countered by anti-tank forces, guns or bazookas, and not by other tanks. The losses here really demonstrate why. Second, I was disappointed at the complete lack of effect from the artillery fire mission against German troops in the open. Not a single casualty from what should have been a devastating blow against the unprotected German centre. This is not a tactical point, but I must conclude that artillery in Close Combat 4 is just for show. I will continue to use it, but will not rely on it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.